Batman Beyond, a new Batman for a new generation. The story starts about 20 years after Batman the Animated Series, and about 15 years after the events of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Bruce is now well into his mid-50s and he is still a crime fighter and now uses a highly advanced tech suit. However, it is becoming much harder for him to keep up with this lifestyle now that he's much older. During a rescue attempt to save the daughter of a socialite friend, he gets a heart attack and he's nearly beaten to death by one of the thugs. Backed into a corner, Bruce pulls out a gun and he nearly shoots him. The rest of the kidnappers are soon dealt with and apprehended, but Bruce nearly came close to betraying his main principle as Batman: never use a gun, as it is a stark reminder of what was used to kill his parents as a child. It is with this realization that he decides to give up the mantle of Batman for good. Fast forward 20 years later, Bruce is now in his 70s and he lives in complete isolation, with his guard dog Ace his only companion. It appears all of his sidekicks over the years, Barbara Gordon, formerly Batwoman, now the police chief commissioner, Dick Grayson as Robin, then Nightwing, and Tim Drake, the next Robin, have all moved on from him, and they live different lives. Enter Terry McGuiness, an athletic 16-year-old high school kid, formerly a juvenile delinquent. He lives a somewhat troubled life as he stays with his father, who is divorced from his mother. Terry has a difficult relationship with his dad, and it makes for a tumultuous father and son relationship. On a night out with his girlfriend Dana, after disobeying his dad's curfew, they are ambushed by a street gang known as the Jokers, a group paying homage to the Clown Prince of Crime. The gang end up chasing Terry on high-speed motorbikes, which end up right outside Wayne Manor. Bruce arrives on the scene, and he and Terry fight off the gang. Bruce gets another mild heart attack after the melee, and Terry helps him back to the mansion. There, Terry stumbles across Bruce's secrets and discovers that he is Batman. But before anything else can happen, Bruce angrily kicks Terry out of the mansion. Terry returns home to the tragic news that his dad has been killed. The first suspects are the Jokers, however it is a much more sinister situation. Derek Powers is a businessman who runs Wayne Enterprises, which was merged and became Wayne Powers around the time Bruce hung up the Batman suit. Terry's dad had discovered that Powers was making illegal chemical weapons, and Powers sent out his henchman Mr. Fix to kill him. Terry learns the secret of his father's murder and goes back to Bruce, who advises him to go to Barbara Gordon. However, he is ambushed by Powers, who takes the evidence away from him. Terry manages to escape and heads back to Wayne Manor and steals the Batsuit, with the intention of bringing down Powers for the murder of his father. Bruce is furious at Terry's antics and he demands that he gives him back the suit. Bruce manages to switch up the suit during battle and Terry is nearly taken out. Terry pleads with Bruce to let him use the suit to bring down Powers, and reluctantly Bruce agrees and frees him. In the ensuing fights, Powers is accidentally exposed to the chemicals, which causes him to lose his skin and become a radiation-emitting entity known as Blight. Mr. Fix, in a one-on-one encounter with Batman, is beaten and seemingly meets his demise at the bottom of Gotham Harbor. Bruce has deduced that crime is still rampant in Gotham and decides that it is in need of a hero. Terry has now moved in with his mum and his little brother. Bruce has stopped by and offers him a job as a chauffeur and personal assistant. Terry accepts this, and this is all a disguise to allow Terry to take on the mantle as the new Batman. And there you have it. A new Batman for the next generation. I remember a childhood friend telling me about this and how Terry McGuiness was a much more vicious Batman than Bruce. The first episode I remember watching was this one. On a flight going from the US to England. One of the onboard flight entertainment shows or movies was Batman Beyond. I remember watching and thinking, this has a very dark theme to it. Almost like an animated movie. The vibe was unlike anything I had watched prior, whether it was Batman the Animated Series or the X-Men. This show just had a whole new dimension of edginess and violence. The whole setting of the show was futuristic with a dark cyberpunk overtone feel to it. The fight scenes I feel were way more intense than Batman the Animated Series. If this was an actual live action TV show, I imagine it would have looked something like Smallville and Arrow, but with a more futuristic punk feel to it. It was just a completely new spin on Batman, which was seen as an extension of the Bruce Timm universe. The show wasn't an immediate success, and it did have its critics, given that the idea for it was to be a kids show with a teenage Batman. The show explored the darker side of Batman with the issues and dilemmas of technological innovation affecting society and the psychology of the character of Bruce Wayne. On top of that, Terry McGuiness was extensively a teenager, so many teen problems like peer pressure, school violence, dysfunctional families, substance abuse were prevalent throughout the series. Terry's Batman did well to establish his own identity and distinguish himself from Bruce. Terry was a teen and not a millionaire. He has this high-tech batsuit used to take care of crime, but he has to juggle it with going to school, being in a relationship with his girlfriend Dana, whilst hiding his secret from her and helping to take care of his mum and brother, and dealing with Bruce. Despite their similarities in having heart, drive and determination, they often clash on how to deal with their adversaries. Terry's Batman also managed to develop his own impressive rogues gallery with some very memorable and underrated villains. There is of course the man behind the killing of his father, Powers, who becomes the villainous Blight. There is the Royal Flush Gang, a group of upper-class thieves consisting of the King, Queen, Jack, Ace and Ten. Ten, whose real identity was a girl named Melanie, who went on to have an affair with Terry. Not quite like his billionaire playboy boss, but juggling two women at once? Oh Terry, you naughty boy. There was the villain Ink, a woman who, as a result of a mutagenic treatment, becomes a shapeshifter via the use of a black substance. She has proven to be one of Terry's more dangerous foes, as shown in several encounters when she usually gets the better of him. There was also Shriek, a sound engineer named Walter Shreve, who was hoping to improve society with his inventions. He was manipulated by Powers, who wants a return after investing money into Shreve's inventions. He has created a suit which allows him to generate destructive sound waves and manipulate sound in several ways. During a battle with Batman, his suit was damaged and the result left him permanently deaf. And Shriek needs special headphones to hear normally. This causes him to become vengeful towards Batman. Another memorable villain is Curare, a member of the Society of Assassins who wields a laser-sharpened sword that can cut through any material, almost like adamantium. What makes her so intriguing and intimidating is that she never speaks. You can see her glaring with her eyes that gives her this feel of a villain unlike any other Batman has faced. It is implied that she's disfigured as during a fight with Batman, her veil falls off and Bats is visibly shocked. This mystique adds to her character and makes her a standout villain in Batman Beyond. Another character I found very intriguing and at times funny was Mad Stan, a completely mad anti-government terrorist who rages his own personal war against what he sees is a corrupt system. He's an expert in explosives, and as such, his solution to fixing any problem is to blowing things up. Certainly one of the more memorable villains, not just on this show but in the history of all Batman rogues. I mean, there are several more, but these are just a few of the rogues I found in the Batman Beyond gallery. There were past Batman villains that do make it into this universe. Dr. Freeze, whose head was preserved by Powers, is brought back, but as a means to create a new body for himself. Freeze wanted to make amends for his past wrongdoings. However, his new body begins to suffer the same symptoms as his previous body, like wanting to exist in extreme cold temperatures. Powers' scientist Dr. Stephanie Lake tries to eliminate Freeze to study the problem. After he obtains a new advanced suit that was kept in cold storage, he goes after Dr. Lake and he freezes her to death. This leads to a final battle with Derek Powers' alter ego Blight, and Batman as well. Driven past the breaking point by losing his life a second time, whilst having been injured by Blight, Freeze finally committed suicide by overloading a reactor and sealing off the building, and he seemingly died in the explosion. But the best was saved for last. Batman's greatest enemy, the Joker, returns in this universe. But not in the actual series run itself, but the feature-length animated movie, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. The Joker, during his last encounter with the original Batman, had kidnapped Tim Drake and turned him into a mini Joker version after several hours of torturing him and revealing Batman's true identity. The Joker tries to get Drake to kill Batman, but instead kills Joker himself. The result left him scarred for life and he gave up being Robin. But Joker had managed to implant a nano-microchip into Drake and live once again and took over his body. He goes one-on-one with Terry's Batman and eventually is beaten after Terry destroys the chip and saves Drake. There was one villain who just had to show up in this universe. It had to be the Joker. It was a different dynamic to what we saw in Batman the Animated Series, but it was very entertaining to watch him take on Terry's version of Batman. Batman Beyond also served as the blueprint for what was to become the Justice League. In Season 3 episode, there was a two-parter called The Call, in which Terry teams up with a futuristic Justice League led by an elderly Superman. The producers have stated in previous interviews that this execution of this episode with multiple characters gave them the confidence to produce an animated show with several leading heroes, so without the success of Batman Beyond, there might not have been a Justice League series. The two-part story The Call was actually the final episode of Batman Beyond, even though it is out of order chronologically. The heart and soul of the character on this show was the voices behind them. I have mentioned on previous videos how in my younger days I would always look at the end credits and look at the voice actor credits. So when I saw the name Will Friedle, I was quite surprised that I had only known him as Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World. He gives Terry that youthful but tough teen with attitude vibe. He has the honor of playing the very first animated Terry, and he will be the measuring stick for future voice actors who do take on the role. He gives Terry a wide range of emotions that really define the character, from caring to loyal to vengeful to brave to young, reckless and fearless. Will really defines the role of McGuiness with his voice in this show. It was so pleasing to see Kevin Conroy return as Bruce Wayne. Older, more senile, bitter, but wiser. Old Bruce Wayne allowed for Conroy to play Batman in a new way which added to the depth of the Bruce Wayne character. Although he was somewhat relegated to mentor, his inclusion gives the show that great feel of progression and evolution from Batman the Animated Series to this world. It allowed for a new dynamic between characters. In the past, it was him and Robin, with the dynamic being hero and teacher. Here it was mentor, father figure, the dynamic with Terry. Lauren Tom, whom I was familiar with as Julie from Season 2 of Friends, voices Terry's girlfriend Dana, giving her a youthful, naive, but loyal and caring impression of the character. Cree Summer of Inspector Gadget and A Different World fame, along with countless other voice actors, is Terry's buddy and sidekick Max. She discovers Terry's secret and becomes his assistant, helping from a distance, but often gets into trouble. She also discovers Bruce Wayne's secret as the original Batman, and he often finds her a nuisance, but eventually he does accept her. Finally, we had two voice actresses as Barbara Gordon, the first being Stockard Channing, most famous for her role in cult classic musical movie Grease. Then we had actress Angie Harmon, who came along for the show's third season. I felt both gave equally good takes on the character. The history between Barbara and Bruce, which led to a fallout, is felt with tension between the characters' interactions. If I had to choose, I would probably go with Harmon, as I felt, despite the character's harder edge, gave her a sense of care and vulnerability. Stockard, I feel, came off as more aggressive and harder, but still a very good character portrayal. The cast was directed by the legendary Andrea Romano, who just knew how to cast great actors and form great ensembles and pull out amazing performances from the cast. Any project involving her is always a success. She's happily retired now, but another Batman or a DC hero project could maybe tempt her out of retirement. Who knows? Surprisingly, this show lasted only 3 seasons at 52 episodes. Now, with the cult following that it has gathered retrospectively, there could have been room, I feel, for another season. There could have been more stories on the on and off relationship with Ten and Terry. Dana never did find out about their affair, so this could have been an interesting dynamic for Terry, dealing with heartbreak whilst fighting on as Batman. Maybe an episode where he meets an older Dick Grayson. He'd already interacted with Barbara and Tim Drake, so this one would have been a good story to tell. There is an episode in Justice League Unlimited, Epilogue, which served as a wrap-up to the Batman Beyond series. Terry is now in his 30s and he has tracked down an elderly Amanda Waller. She reveals the secrets to Terry's journey to becoming Batman. Some years after Bruce retired, Waller found a young neo-Gotham couple, the McGuinnesses. The psychological profiles were nearly identical to those of Bruce's parents. A nanotech solution was injected into Warren McGuinness's DNA to rewrite his reproductive material with that of Bruce. Eventually, his wife, Mary McGuinness, gave birth to Terry, a child showing the genetic traits of his mother and Bruce Wayne. The plan had been to kill his parents when he was 8, and the psychological trauma would have seen him become Batman. However, Waller's paid would-be assassin Andrea Beaumont, aka the Phantasm, refused to go ahead with the killing, believing it would be everything against what Bruce stood for. Sadly though, Terry's dad did end up being killed thanks to Mr. Fix-It and Derek Powers, and he ended up meeting Bruce and eventually becoming the new futuristic Batman. Waller tells Terry that despite everything, he is not a clone of Bruce, but he is his son, and he can live out his life as he chooses. Terry comes to terms with this, and he carries on as Batman of the future. I feel on the subject of this show I have covered a lot, but still feel that there could be more to go over, but for the sake of the length of this video I will wrap it up and will come back with any extras with a later video. Batman Beyond created a whole new world for the Batman mythology and expanded its universe in the process. Before Batman the Animated Series, we had never had such successful animated show on the Batman character. That show's success paved the way for the show to come along and not just be a simple continuation of Batman, but an evolution of the character which opened up a whole new world to new characters and ideologies as it relates to the Caped Crusader. And in turn, this show's success opened the door for the Justice League shows. The storytelling, the action, the superb voice acting made Batman Beyond a certified success and an all-time superhero animated classic.